Islam, Christianity, the Quran, the Bible, Muhammad, Jesus. These are the mega issues that we're about to discuss, so come join us, brought to you by White Horse Media. Christianity is the world's largest religion, and Islam is not far behind. It's catching up fast. My guest today is a fascinating man whose name is Shahbaz. He grew up in Iran in a devout Muslim family, and I've invited here to our White Horse Media studio to discuss a lot of different subjects dealing with Islam and the Muslim mind and heart and their religion, their practices, Christianity, Jesus, the Bible, and just a lot of different issues that are very, very important for us to look at. Shahbaz is a family man. He is the author of a fascinating book called Two Sacrifices, One Destiny. He is an associate speaker for Amazing Discoveries, and he's also the host of a television program and series called Voice of Hope on the Hope Channel. So Shahbaz, I want to welcome you here.
Thank you for having me.
This is good. Glad that we've had you come here, that you were willing to come. We've been discussing doing a program on this for a long time. Here at White Horse Media, I had a couple of women come and we discussed abortion. And then there were 3 men who came and we discussed homosexuality. And now we're going to discuss Islam and Christianity. As you know, this is a big subject. And before we go into your family and some of your background and just talk more about the issues, tell me a little more about Voice of Hope.
Voice of Hope is a series of programs that I've been producing with Hope Channel for the last 9 years. And we produce about 60 programs annually that I do. There are other hosts that actually produce programs as well. But my programs, there are about 60 of them every year. And our aim is to reach the people of Iran and other countries that speak Farsi in the region, or the sister language, Dari, which is close to Farsi, and which is Afghanistan, Tajikistan, and scattered peoples in other countries in the Middle East that do speak the language. Some upwards of 130 million people speak Persian.
Wow.
So our aim is to reach them through these programmings, and for the most part, it's been a blessing.
Wonderful. Now, you are, like me, you are a family man.
Correct.
Just tell us a little bit about your wife, your kids.
Well, my wife and I, we have 5 children. We live in the States, here in the United States, and we been in the ministry almost from the very start when we got married, and we just been traveling a lot as a family, and my wife is my support. Without her, it's impossible for me to do this work. She takes on a lot of responsibilities, as you know. Mm-hmm. When we are on the road, when we're traveling, our wives are busy, and praise God for my wife and for being able to do this work. My children are growing up.
How many kids do you have?
5 children.
5 children.
I have a couple in going to college, university, and all, and a couple of the younger ones are still at home.
So what are their ages?
21, and then 19, 16, 11, and 6 years old.
Mm-hmm. And they're boys, girls, combination?
Well, I have 4 boys and 1 girl. Middle child is a girl.
Okay.
She's 16 years old. Yeah.
And I think you mentioned to me that 2 of them were planned and 3 were not.
That's correct.
Yeah.
2 were planned, 3 were not. And the Lord blessed us, and we're happy. We're very happy.
Wonderful. Yeah, most who are watching this know me, that I'm a family man too. My wife is Kristen. We've been married for 18 years, and Seth just turned 14 not long ago, and Abby is 10. And it's wonderful to be a family man. I love my kids, you love your kids.
Amen.
And, as we think about Islam and Muslims and Christians and the issue of morality and standards, we've discussed this, that Muslims have a high respect for certain moral principles. And I think you would agree with this, that a lot of times when a Muslim looks at the West, they associate Christianity with the West, and they see a lot of immorality, and they see that as being a reflection of Christianity, and it doesn't give a very good taste in their mouths. But there are certain principles that you have that I think we should just clarify right out of the gate that are important. And I know that, at least from what I've learned, Muslims have a strong conviction about certain things we shouldn't eat, such as a pig. Mm-hmm. So just, tell us a little bit about, I understand you don't eat pork, is that correct?
No. As a Christian, I firmly believe that we should abstain from consuming the flesh of that pigs, and that we should be loyal to God, because God in the Bible forbids us from eating the flesh of the swine. And of course, I grew up as a Muslim. That was a given. Everybody understood that in the Muslim world, that you don't eat the flesh of the swine. But the purpose of why we didn't eat it was never explained to us. It was just that it's unclean, it's dirty, but there are medical reasons why we shouldn't eat it, and that's probably for another program. But yeah, we don't consume. My whole family, we don't eat it, and that's a firm belief.
And how about the drink?
Well, absolutely not. And the Bible forbids that as well, and that we are not to even look upon it, drink it. And many Muslims judge Christians based on what they see on television and the Western culture. And what I would tell my Muslim brothers and sisters and friends is that don't look upon what the West does. Christianity gives freedom to people to live as they choose. God will never force a single human being to obey Him. God will never force anyone. And therefore, in the Christian world, because they're not forced, and it's a matter of choice, most have chosen to live a life that is apart from what God has told them to live life like. And therefore, Muslims judge Christians in a wrong light. Because many Christians do not drink alcoholic beverages, they will not eat the flesh of swine, and therefore they are standing faithful to the principles and doctrines that they have learned from the Bible.
So they often judge Christianity on the basis of what they see in Christians.
Absolutely, especially through Hollywood and television, and almost none of those people in Hollywood have convictions that are Christian, and they don't follow it. And so therefore, but Muslims in the Middle East, they don't know that. They think those people are Christians. They have Christian names, and they are drinking, and they're sexually immoral, and all of that.
Yeah, it's. I think it was Gandhi who once said, "Your Christ I like, but it's Christians I have a problem with."
Yes.
Something like that. And it's true that Christians don't always reflect, what they should be doing. Personally, I don't eat pork either, and I don't drink alcohol. And I remember when a friend of mine and I were in Russia years ago, and we were sitting in one of their saunas with some of the guys that were just, Russian men around us, where we were exercising and then sitting in this steam room just to relax. And a couple of the guys looked at us and went like this, which is the Russian way of saying, "Do you have any alcohol?" They just, "Come on, you want to drink with us?" And we said, "Niet, we don't drink alcohol." And they were surprised. So that's a principle that we have too. Now, what about smoking?
Absolutely. There's a Bible verse that reminds us that our body is a temple of the Holy Spirit. and that the God will destroy those who will destroy their bodies. And we can destroy our bodies by bad habits, the way we eat, what we drink, smoking. And therefore, we as Christians believe strongly that we should abstain from all of that, and smoking is not healthy at all.
Yeah, I totally agree. I used to smoke marijuana as I was a teenager in my wild days, but all that's changed. My life has changed.
Wow,
and I'm a happily married man as you are. And I think we can both, categorically state right out of the gate that we have strong moral principles about being faithful to our spouses.
Absolutely.
You've been married how many years?
22 years now.
22, and it's been 18 for me. And we discussed this last night, that neither one of us have ever been involved with another woman.
That's right.
Since we've been married. We are faithful to our wives and our children. We both want to be good husbands and good fathers.
Amen.
And so, we want to practice what we believe in, and we want to live lives that will please our Maker,
Amen.
that will please God. Now, let's talk a little bit about just Islam itself. I've read recently that it is the fastest growing religion in the world. Is that? Would you concur with that?
I would say it is. It's upwards 1.7 billion people, and that are Muslims. One of the reasons that Islam is growing so rapidly is not because of evangelism. It's not because they're having large numbers of people outside of the Muslim context that are converting to Islam. There are individuals that are doing this, granted, both in Europe, North America, and other places on the globe. But the numbers are not that large. The main factor why Islam is growing so fast is because Muslims believe in having large families. And once a child is born as an infant, they are automatically considered a Muslim. Especially the father's job is to say the Shahada in the ear of the baby, even though it's an infant. And he says the Shahada, or the witness. And he basically proclaims that child a Muslim.
So what does he say?
He says, Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah Muhammadan Rasulullah. And
which
means that Allah is one, and that His Prophet is Muhammad. And if any person repeats those words with conviction, they are considered a Muslim. And so this is the main reason why Islam is growing so rapidly, because of so many children are being born to families that are Muslim.
And your family, your background, how big was your family as you were growing up in Iran?
5 siblings. We were 5 siblings, and my own mother's home, she had 8 siblings, and my father had 4 siblings. And so it was, today, that's changed in Iran. Today, the average family has 1 or 2 children. But before, in my generation, it was much larger. Other countries in the Middle East and the Muslim world, they believe in having multiple children, many children, and that's their. It's almost a duty, and they are very good at performing that, and large families.
So your family growing up had five siblings, and now you have 5 kids.
5. I kind of, it's in the blood.
Yeah. Okay. Now, when most Americans, Westerners think about Islam, it's very hazy. This religion, is Islam pretty much a homogenous body of 1.7 billion people, or are there different branches, different factions? And I'm assuming if there are, that they don't all see alike, just like within Christianity, there's a lot of different denominations and churches. Is it similar in Islam?
Yes, Muslims do have. There are several sects within Islam. At least, we know the major is the Sunni sect, which is the largest number of Muslims. We do have the Shia sect is the second largest. Within the Sunni faction or the sect, you have other sub groups like the Wahhabi, which is the primary belief system of the Saudi kingdom, Saudi Arabia, and other Persian Gulf Arab nations there, and which they adhere to the Wahhabi belief system. And so we also have the Sufis. The Sufis are considered the most liberal of all Muslims. And when I say liberal, I mean by their standards. A Sufi Muslim would eat out of the dish, basically put his hand in the same bowl that the Christian has put his hand in and eat from it. But a faithful Sunni or a Wahhabi Muslim will not do that. And for the Shias, they some do and some don't, depending on their background and how they were raised.
Do you know off the top of your head approximately how many different branches there
are
in
at
Islam?
At least 7 or 8 major factions that are, but the main ones are the Sunnis and the Shias. Those are the top 2 largest. Of course, in the Shia, there are probably about 100 million Shias that around the globe, and that number is not an accurate number.
And that's the same in the West? I mean, there are
yeah,
Shia and Sunnis.
That's correct.
In Chicago and Los Angeles.
That's right, absolutely. And primarily the Shias are from Iran. They're Iranian and they're Farsi speaking. There are some Arab Shias as well in Iraq. They have probably the second largest population of Shias are in Iraq. And in fact, the majority of Iraqis are Shia. And during the time of Saddam Hussein, the Sunnis were in charge, although the majority were Shias. And so there is a divide. These two sects divides the Muslims considerably. They are not friends.
And what are the core beliefs?
Well, in the Shia belief, the belief that really divides them is who took the line of authority after Muhammad. In the Sunni belief, Umar took the line of authority, but the Shias believe no, it was Ali, Imam Ali, that took the authority in his hand. And Ali actually married Muhammad's daughter, and so he was his son-in-law. Mm-hmm. And so that's the major one.
Now, apart from the big, those differences, the common beliefs within Islam as a whole, what are the core beliefs?
We have
there's one God.
That's right. They all believe in the one God. In fact, when the call to prayer is announced from the minarets in the mosques around the Muslim world, 5 times a day in the Sunni world, 3 times in the Shia world, they proclaim that Allah is one, He has no consort, and that is part of the call to prayer. And when every Muslim prays 5 times a day, they also repeat that sentiment, that God is one. So that unites them. That's where they are one in their beliefs, and they believe that Muhammad is the only last prophet, and there are no other prophets after him, and that he is the highest prophet.
So the basic belief, there is one God, that is Allah, and Muhammad is his prophet.
That's right.
And that unites all Muslims
that unites
under one
them.
Basic umbrella.
Correct.
Now, I'm interested, East versus West. Isn't there a basic difference many times between the Muslim mind in the East versus in the West?
Absolutely. The Muslims that live in the West are, at least the Muslims that live in the East consider the Muslims that live in the West as secular Muslims, and that they are not true Muslims. But the Western Muslims do not consider the Eastern philosophy, at least the one that is more on the fence of aggression, as the true Islam. The Western Muslims are very calm and subtle.
They're more
non-violent and all that. And the Eastern Muslims, not all of them, because I lived in Iran, and the majority of the people that I lived around me, my relatives, friends, none of them were violent or promoted violence. But Islam inherently has a piece within it that if a Muslim would to embrace it, they have to embrace that violent side as well. And so the Western Muslims have not embraced that peace.
And they don't consider that really part of true Islam.
No, they
that
don't
right?
consider it as true part of, of
Okay,
Islam.
so in the West it's more nonviolent, in the East it's tends more to violence.
Tends if those Easterners are actually living according to the words.
And if those in the West happen to come under the influence of certain ones in the East, then they get what's called radicalized, right?
They could get
and they can then
radicalized,
go
yes.
into the suicide
That's
mode.
right. In fact, when ISIS was promoting their beliefs and their agenda, and the way they promoted and brought people over to them, it was go back to the Quran. Basically, that message was go back to the Quran, read what it says to you. And by doing that, they were hoping that they will go read and they will become more radicalized.
Mm-hmm. Now, the view of salvation, what's the basic Muslim understanding? I mean, they believe in one God, they believe in living moral lives, and what is the basis for their security that they're going to get to the other side?
Well, the good has to outweigh the bad, and a Muslim will be in heaven because they have a good record, and it outweighs their bad record. So there is no salvation through an individual or the shedding of blood or anything. Salvation is based on your good deeds, and even at that, there is no promise that you will be in heaven.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I remember not too long ago, I was sitting on a plane next to a man who was a Muslim from India. And we struck up quite a conversation. I asked him a lot of questions, and his wife was right across the aisle and his 2 children next to her. And we talked about that, and he said that, he hoped that on the day of judgment, that his good deeds would outweigh his bad deeds.
That's right.
The scale would go more in his favor, right. And that Allah would have mercy on him because he was a good person.
Yeah.
And now, do you think that leaves a hole in people's lives? Is there a certain? Are they confident that their good deeds will outweigh the bad deeds, or is there a certain trepidation on the inside of a lot of Muslims?
There's always that trepidation inside, and Muslims live with that question: what will it be for me? How will I fare in this? Will I be in heaven? Will I go to hell? And so they do not have that peace.
And as you were growing up, did you not have that peace?
No, I didn't. I was always worried about it, especially when older members of the family talked about it. It brought a sense of fear to me because I couldn't be sure of my salvation.
Mm-hmm. Now, in your book, you describe, and which we'll talk more about. We've got more programs. I think the next one we're going to talk about, can Muslims trust the Bible? What about the Bible? Different views of the Bible. And then we're going to talk about Jesus. And is Jesus for Muslims today? That's program 3. And then in program 4, the truth about sin. And we'll go into, a little bit more of your story, and we'll go in deeper into that, how you discovered your sinfulness, and you found a peace. You found peace that you hadn't found before.
That's right.
And I think you wanted to share a Bible verse
Yes.
about that peace, and
Yes.
we're kind of winding down this first program, but just give us, share a verse from the Bible, and we'll talk more about the Bible.
Yeah,
whether we can really trust it today.
John chapter 14 is the verse that actually really blessed me and helped me in my walk, especially in the early years as I was becoming a Christian. And John chapter 14, verse 27. And this verse is just amazing, and it has helped me through the years. Jesus, speaking to his disciples, said, "Peace I live with you, my peace I give unto you. Not as the world giveth, give I unto you. Let not your heart be troubled, neither let it be afraid."
And who said that?
Christ spoke those words, and to his disciples, and to all believers, consequently. And the peace that Jesus actually offered to me when I was between these 2 roads and making a decision to follow him was an everlasting peace. As long as I held on to Christ, as long as I was in him, that peace can never be taken away from me. And he has proven that to be the case.
And it wasn't a peace based on your good works outweighing your bad works in the day of judgment.
That's right. If it was based on that, I would have many. I would have many opportunities to go into depression. But it was because his peace is. He gives his peace to us without measure, and it's not given to us in a transaction way. You give me this, I give you that. All he wants us to believe in him, and to really believe in him, not just believe in him and then do our own things. Believe in him and let that be our life.
And you have experienced that peace. Is that right?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I have too. This is a very powerful verse, and I mentioned to you before we came together today that my dad died about a month ago at 89 in Los Angeles, and I was at his bedside not long before he died, and this verse was a precious verse to him. He had memorized this verse. We went over it together, and he would just lay there, as an 89-year-old man on his bed, and he would say, "Peace I leave with you, my peace I give to you. Mm-hmm. Not as the world gives, give I to you. Let not your heart be troubled, neither let it be afraid." And as you're getting close to the point of death, you need something that takes away your fears. Mm-hmm. And the peace of this verse was very, very precious to my father. Mm. So in our next program, we'll talk about this book and whether this book has been corrupted down through the ages. Is this really God's book? We'll talk about the Quran, the Bible, and what you've discovered in your research. And then we'll talk more about Jesus, because I understand that Muslims do believe in Jesus as a prophet, and we'll look more closely at this issue. And then we'll talk about sin and where that leads us. And we've got more programs, and you'll share your testimony. And so we've got a lot more to do. And this is just the beginning. We're just kind of laying the groundwork and discussing these issues. And our ultimate goal is that you will find peace in your life. This world is falling apart on all sides. We all need peace. And Muslims need peace, Christians need peace, we all need peace. And that will be available right here on Good News for Islam and Muslims.
We hope you enjoyed watching Good News for Muslims with Steve Wohlberg and Shabazz. This entire 13-part series is now available on DVD. To order from within the U.S., call White Horse Media at 1-800-782-4253. To watch the series online or for more information, visit the website www.goodnewsformuslims.com.